I'm Zach, and today I'd like to tell you a little bit about one of my favorite stories in the Bible, the story of Emmaus Road. First, let's set the scene. It's been 3 days since Jesus died on the cross, and a group of women go to the tomb. But when they get there, they find that this massive stone that had been at the entrance of the tomb had been rolled away. And for some reason, women decide that the appropriate thing to do would be for them to go inside the tomb. And so they do. And when they get there, curiously, they find nothing. And as they are standing there, dumbfounded, trying to put the pieces back together, two men appear before them in dazzling white. Think two Elton Johns. And the women, they avert their eyes, as we would all do in the immediate presence of Sir Elton. And these apparitions say to the women, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Jesus is not here. He is risen." And so the women run back to the rest of the group, who had been quarantined behind closed doors, not because of a virus, but from fear of the injustice of corrupt leaders. And they tell everyone, read the men, what happened. And here's the part you're not going to believe. The men didn't listen to them. I mean, up until this point, men have had a great track record throughout the Bible, and afterwards, all of human history, men do an excellent job of listening to women. And here, the one time you don't do it, it really comes back to bite you. And this stranger asked them what they were talking about. And so they tell him the whole story. "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who doesn't know what happened? Jesus of Nazareth, we had hoped that he was the one who would redeem all of this. But he was betrayed and killed, and now there are rumors among the women that the tomb is empty." Incognito, Jesus responds, "How foolish you are and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets," read the women, "have declared." Then comes one of my favorite lines in the entire Bible. Beginning with Moses and the prophets, Jesus interpreted to them everything about him in the scriptures. Now this sounds like a pretty good deal, It seems really important, the stuff that Jesus must have helped them to understand. It's just that they didn't write that part down and put it in the Bible, and I would have made a different editorial choice. Let's also pause here to notice that Jesus still hasn't revealed himself to these guys. At this point, he's just a random stranger on the road, opening their minds to understand everything about Jesus in the scriptures. Eventually, they get to the village where they're going, and incognito Jesus keeps walking. But these two guys, they ask Jesus to stay with him. They beg him to. And eventually he does. And that evening they sit down at the table and they share what I can only imagine is a loaf of quarantine-baked sourdough. And Jesus holds it and breaks it and gives it to them. And it is only when he does that their eyes are opened and they realize that it is Jesus who has been with them all along. And in that same instant, Jesus vanishes. Poof. So much of my life has been about knowing things. It's a big reason that I work on a university campus. There are a few things I love more than learning new things and being with those who are coming to know things for the first time. Now, it's exam time for students around here, but I'd like to entertain the possibility that Jesus wasn't giving the disciples a pop quiz. What if Jesus really doesn't know what happened? So I think it's fair to ask, is resurrection like Men in Black when Will Smith gets rebooted and forgets stuff? Or maybe it's like Doctor Who, when the Doctor regenerates and it takes a while to get back up to speed. More importantly, I think it matters that Jesus doesn't know about himself, because it means that resurrected life is not essentially, at its heart, about knowing. You see, the dark side of a life spent trying to know things is the stress that comes from unknowing. The things I do not know scare me. And yet in this story, Jesus doesn't seem to know exactly what's going on. I mean, again, the women do, so, think about that. And the disciples don't know, and even when Jesus opens their minds to understand the fullness of the scriptures and the mysteries, they still can't recognize Jesus, even when they know they don't. Instead, Jesus is with them all along the way. In their ignorance, in their enlightenment, and in the bread. I do not know what the next couple of months or the fall semester will look like. But I do know that Jesus will be walking with us, whether we know it or not.